Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. Good afternoon. My name is Muhannad Abakar, and I'm taking care of the Cohesity pre-sales, leading the pre-sales for Cohesity in Middle East. And today's session is about the platform of the Cohesity and what challenge we are resolving with that platform. The agenda for today will be, So at the beginning, we will talk about what are the challenges on the today IT, what we call it secondary storage use cases. And then we will try to deep dive about the platform and how you can go beyond the traditional backup and recovery approach with the new scale out and web scale architecture here, which essentially is going to reduce the TCO and increase the resiliency and the value out of the existing data you have. And then we may touch also the cloud use cases and how to have either hybrid cloud architecture or private cloud, or you even go to the public cloud directly there. And we will discuss as well the security values or points out of the Cohesity platform, and how can you use your existing data, or let's say the backup data, in more than just backup and recovery, and use it also for some security compliance requirements there to fulfill that requirements. Cool. Please feel free, if there is any question, to send it on the Q&A screen. And from time to time, I will be pausing the presentation and checking the questions as well. So, without further ado, let's start. So, if you look at the new, what we call it, the new reality, which is the challenge the IT organization is always having, I take it from the part of the complexity, or it's all this actually it is driven because of the complexity on the infrastructure people having. Over the time, whenever we have any requirements, we go and call vendors, and they come and present some one appliance or one software which is doing one task only, right? And because of that, when you come to the requirements, like this is the new reality that people need to introduce new technologies while managing the existing systems. So if your existing systems are not flexible enough to accept and integrate with the new technologies, then there is a problem here always, right? And because also of the new reality that your data is the most important thing, that means that it is not anymore about the hardware you are using. People are going for the software-defined architecture, right? And if you go to the software-defined landscape, it will require you to have a new approach for management, right? It is over the time that you have to manage from, you come in the morning and logging to 7 or 6 streams just to check what happens yesterday. That's not there anymore, right? And people are talking about the cloud for different reasons because of the shrink on the CapEx budget they have. So they have people, they want to consume the service in the cloud without having the headache of procuring things on the on-prem. But in order to go for that cloud journey, it's a journey, right? So you start by something and then you add on it use cases like that. But at the end of the day, it is not easy to go 100% on the cloud. So you see people that they want to have that mixture of public cloud and private cloud, or maybe let's say hybrid cloud and multi-cloud even architecture there. So all in all, if you see the data, as we say, that is the, I know it is used many times, but the data is one of the common assets that links all the different environments, right? And requires holistic approach to management. What that means? It means that if you are looking into data-driven decisions, for example, or information-driven decisions, and you still have the data is in a silos environments and distributed on multiple setups, then you don't have that, you will not have that capability to do the analytics, the searching, and you get the insight out of your raw data, which is distributed everywhere. And without this holistic approach of management, any talk about data analytics is going to be just waste of time. So this is the new reality here. Now, if you look at the just one use case like data protection, what we used to do is we get that backup software, and this backup software will come and say, hey, I need this number of media servers. I need master servers, and I need more of one of each. Why? Because of the high availability. Because if my master server is down, you will not be able to recover or do the backup. And I need multiple agent servers, right? And I need a target storage. So that target storage is going to be in a different solution, right? I may need also tape library, and all the headache of the manual management of the tape library is there. So fragmentation, inefficiency because of the scale, right? And the unscalability, obviously, because of the traditional three layer of the three-tier architecture there. Now, this is only on the production. If you start talking about DR, you need to double that investment, and the same complexity will be there within the DR as well, right? Now, people start talking about the cloud. If you are using existing, or let's say legacy data protection or backup solutions, these guys, they they architected their solution before there is something even called cloud, right? So in order for them to talk with the cloud, they will tell you, hey, you need the cloud gateway. So that is another appliance or server you need to add in your production as well as the DR. All in all, this is what we call it mass data fragmentation, because your data is going to be splitted and split across all the components you have within the data center. And they don't give you like one console where you can manage everything and you can do searching. You can I search across my 1,000 virtual machines and 200 physical servers all together? If I want to search for a file called payroll, can I know where is that file exactly on which server out of all the virtual machines I have, out of all the physical servers, out of all the NAS directories I have, out of all the cloud virtual machines I have? It is not easy for them, right? Now, this is where we, as a Cohesity, we try to reduce this complexity and solve the issue. So as a company, it's started by the same team who came with the first hyper-converged, let's say, solution in the market, right? And we did that disruption, what happens on the legacy primary SAN architecture. So we applying now the same concept, but on what we call it the secondary storage use cases, like backup, archiving, and the NAS, object storage, and so forth, right? Now, since we are addressing multiple use cases, but if you see just that use case of the backup, for example, you see Cohesity becomes a leader in a very short period of time on all the major reports in the market, right? In the IT market. And it's being used now as a technology with a lot of logos and enterprises, locally, regionally, and globally as well, right? From the finance sector to the federal governments and the healthcare, the education, you name it. You find Cohesity always there. Some of them are using it only for the backup, some of them for backup as well as NAS and object storage, right? Because what we call ourselves is data management platform. So you can have it for end-to-end backup solution. You can have it as a scale out NAS only and object storage, or you can even mix with it, right? So the challenge that we talked about of the growing cost, the missing the SLA because of the complexity of moving the data from the production servers to the backup, and the operational overhead because you have to maintain a lot of scripting to do the DBs backup, to do test dev environment out of it, And when we talk about the backup, very thing in mind nowadays is the ransomware attack, which is targeting the backup data and making that encryption. So how can you avoid all this? So Cohesity is changing this because of the simplicity and the consolidation you are going to see on the architecture, which eventually lowering the TCO for the end users, at the same time improving the SLA because of the simplicity and the seamless integration with the existing production servers like virtual, physical databases. And because of the new interfaces, and there is no existing or like Java or specific requirements for management, you can manage that platform from any browser pointing to any IP address out of the cluster, for example. And because we secure the data in a way that when it is written into Cohesity, it's always coming as a mutable backup, so that either the backup admin or Cohesity support or super user, no one will be able to change this data again. Even if you want to restore, like we will make a clone and then you access that clone out of the Cohesity directly, right? But the security is not only about the immutability. This is the first layer, the most important one, but also because of the architecture that we don't need master server, we don't need multi-agent servers, we don't need proxy servers. That means you have less number of servers and operating system to concern about securing them, because that attack can come from any one of out of these servers, right, from the legacy architecture. So the less component you have, the higher security approach you have, and the less security risk you get, right? Now, so this is the new architecture, that it's a scale out, means that you keep adding nodes within the platform or within the cluster, and it is one platform which can tackle the issues of the backup as well as the file and object mass storage, and all managed from the same single user interface, regardless what you are using it for. But also on top of that, we added a layer, we call it Cohesity Marketplace. And this is the interesting story here, where you have the capability to use this backup data or the test dev environment or the NAS data you have on Cohesity. You can use it and get it accessed by applications, right? For use cases like you have compliance applications that need to access the production server. So instead of doing that operation on the production servers, you are going to offload it to the backup data. And I'm going to give examples on the coming slides later on about the applications on the marketplace. So as I said, the platform is software defined. So we don't care really what is the hardware running there. We have a certified hardware from multiple vendors, and we have our own hardware as well. But at the same time, we give you the ability to run the software either as a virtual machine on top of existing hypervisor, or you run it on at the edge, for example, with some servers, some hardware, small hardware there, or you run it even in the cloud as a cloud instant, AWS, in Azure, or in GCP. So we give you that capability to abstract the layer of the hardware, and then you just consume the surface of the Cohesity out of the platform. From the scalability point of view, if you see here, you start usually the cluster by 3 nodes, and you can select what is the level of the region coding you want, or the RF2, RF3 technologies. And then you can keep adding nodes within the platform as long as you like, right? So it's going from 3 nodes to unlimited number of nodes within the cluster. And this is very important, that you don't need any more that to block your capital or the budget on 5 years or 6 years storage upfront. The solution is easy to scale. While the operation is going on, you can add nodes and you can remove even nodes if you like, and move the nodes from one side to another side. The same license, you can also move it from the on-prem to the cloud. So suppose that today you are having the requirements to do the backup for the on-prem in your data center production service, right? But you have a future plan for the next 18 months or let's say 2 years that you need to move the production to the cloud. Now the question is, shall I buy something only for the on-prem and then after 2 years I throw that investment and then again I go buy another thing on the cloud? So the answer here is the license always we give is for you, whether you are using it on-prem or you are using it in cloud. It's really up to you and your requirements. So you can have that Cohesity hardware with the software license on it on-prem, but after 18 months or 12 months that you decided to move the workloads to the cloud, so the same license, you just use it there and create your Cohesity cluster in the cloud, right? And you shut down the hardware which is on-prem. So we'll protect the investment on the on-prem backup or the license you did in the beginning. Okay. Multiple nodes, multiple component, and multiple options are available. So if you see on the upper, on the top layer, that is the Cohesity rebranded hardware. We have the Edge, we have the all flash, and you have the with the spinel disk, the hybrid one, and all the numbers you see here is the raw capacity per one node. And as I said, the minimum number of nodes you need 3, and then you can scale out, and also you scale up in terms of the features. So the basic license of Cohesity, which we call it DataPlatform license, and that one will give you all the storage and the object storage, I mean the NAS, NFS, the SMB capability, with the quotes and with the quota management and everything. But later on, you want to convert this to full backup solution. You just add the license of the data protection or the backup license here. The solution as well is available with our OEMs like HPE, Cisco, Pure Storage as well there, and Dell and Fujitsu. You can have the hardware from them with our certified bill of materials there, the configuration, and you build the software and you just install the software on that hardware. Yeah. So I'm going to pause here for a second and see if there is any question. Mahmoud, do you see any question on the chat?
No questions مهند مفيش أسئلة لحد دلوقتي.
Okay. So the starting with the platform can be from different angle. You can start, as I said, as data protection, or you started as a file and object storage, or even in the cloud, or for the cloud. So
معلش يا مهند في سؤال بس قبل ما نكمل البوينت الجاي عشان اللي فات. Your hardware is super micro.
The one on the top, yes, super micro. That's correct.
طيب في سؤال تاني, are you supporting container backup?
Yes, we do support containers backup.
طيب تمام, هما السؤالين دول لحد دلوقتي عندنا, فممكن نكمل إن شاء الله جون, ولو في حاجة تاني برضه هنبقى نقول لك بعد ما نخلص. اتفضل.
Sure. Yeah. So we support, just to come back to that, we support the container backup for the namespace and the persistent disk, and you can provision test environment out of that, or you can recover it in another Kubernetes framework setup. So that is supported, yeah. Now, as I said, multiple use case. How to start this use case can be for the backup, for example, and do that transformation out of this 3-tier architecture to the hyper-converged, let's say, architecture, right? With the fast ingest, because it's, as I said, it's a distributed file system, which means that each and every node is going to help or is going to take part of the job while ingesting and sending the data to the platform, right? At the same time, because of the technology, what we call it, the snap tree technology, because it's snap tree, you have the ability to do not only traditional instant restore, but you do instant mass restore. So mass is the key word here. So you can have that large number, tens and hundreds of virtual machines, let's say, you can recover it or instantly access from the Cohesity directly without moving it back to the primary storage for access for the recovery. Okay. And the capability, I'm going to talk in details about this later on, but for the worm and security, worm means that the right ones read many, and this is how you secure against the ransomware attacks and other threats, and the global deduplication across all the workloads. So suppose that you have like this, the virtual physical databases, and you have NAS, which are tech backup with the Cohesity worm. Now, the question is, how can I make deduplication across all the workloads? So everything is coming into Cohesity. Every data and every block will go through the same process of the deduplication, that pipeline, and we'll make the fingerprint, and then we decide whether it is a duplicate block or it is a new block generated, right? Regardless from where this block came. This is the key thing here. So the higher domain you have for the deduplication, usually you will get the higher or the best or the better efficiency on the storage. So unlike other solutions where they do deduplication per the backup job only, we do the deduplication across all the workloads within the platform, right? So this is for the on-prem, but also you have the option, you can start or send that backup directly to the cloud even, right? Whether you are approaching, so for example, that maybe you can have, let's say you have the primary data center and you don't have a DR and you are looking for a DR solution, right? So one approach is to go and find or construct a new data center and you name it as a DR, and then you make the equipment there and prepare everything as a new data center, and then you start the replication. That is very well supported here and be done. But also you can use the existing, cloud service provider services. So that cloud can be act as a offsite backup for you. At the same time, you can convert it as a DR site for you. So you can have the DR, you can be protected against disasters from next day, right? Without having that headache of building new data center. So the two approaches are there. You can have the DR on another data center from your own, or you can send this backup directly to the cloud, or you can have only the archiving, let's say, data going to the cloud, right, for the offsite or for the longer retention period. And this is the beauty here. Without the need of any cloud gateway or something on the on-prem, you can do this and you can start your cloud journey from day one. And we don't restrict you in a specific cloud. It will be in your choice. It can be like a local service provider or cloud service provider, or one of the web scalers like the AWS, Azure, and GCP. The second use case here is the file and objects. So instead of having multiple, let's say, storage arrays that serving the NFS, the SIFs, the SMB, and the object storage protocols, you can have the same Cohesity platform giving you access to the internal, or let's say the distributed storage we have, right? But we give it in one namespace, of course, right? And you go even beyond the NAS, because you will have the multiple protocol access to the same data, and you have, again, you will enjoy that deduplication, what's happening globally within the platform and the compression. But also we give extra things, not only the access to the storage through protocols, but give you the ability to do the searching, for example, to do the searching across all the workloads there, do the reporting for auditing, who create which file, who tried to access the finance files, for example, and so forth, right? So because we do the indexing and because we maintain that auditing things within the platform. So you can generate your reports at any point of time because of the apps, what we are running on Cohesity as a container, right? That marketplace apps is actually a container apps, which you can choose what app I need, click download, get the app, it will be downloaded into your Cohesity cluster, and that app will be having the access within the same platform for all the data there, which is coming from the backup or it is coming as an as and object stored there. Right. At the same time, we give the ability of doing tiering either to the cloud or from the cloud or from existing NAS storage. So you can tear down from that existing NAS storage you have on-prem to the Cohesity, and we run it as a policy, and we go and check what is the age of this file. And based on the policy you put, for example, that you can see like if I have this file has been modified last time or last date for modification is 60 days back, get this file back to Cohesity from that production NAS, right? And vice versa. And then we can return it back if there is a new request coming to read and modify this file. As I said, cloud native, so you can have that integration between the on-premises and the cloud. So you can run the Cohesity directly into the cloud, or you can have it the on-prem and protect the cloud workloads like Office 365 and the EC2 instance or Lambda, whatever is there, right? Protect it in the cloud or protect it back to the on-prem. Depends on the compliance you have and the architecture you like to have it, right? So for example, you can have the Office 365. You can use the on-prem Cohesity to protect that Office 365 in the cloud or protect it back into the on-prem data center you get. So that flexibility is there. And it's very important to mention there, the license always for Cohesity is workload agnostic. Means we really don't care what workload or what source you are doing backup for in Cohesity. We always see only the back-end capacity you are going to use out of the Cohesity platform. For example, you have Office 365, let's say 10,000 users, and you have the 1,000 virtual machine on-prem. So at the end of the day, we call it Cohesity Data Protect License. It can be for any kind of workloads you have in the cloud or on the on-prem. So we don't charge separately. For example, you don't have to invest based on the number of the users. Okay. Even introducing now what we call it data management as a service. So till yesterday, we used to have, let's say you want to use Cohesity in the cloud. So you provision that Cohesity virtual machines in the cloud and it will form Cohesity cluster there. And you manage these virtual machines in the cloud. We are introducing now data management as a service that you do subscription, and at the background, you will just consume the services in front. At the background infrastructure, Cohesity is going to manage it. So you don't have to manage anything on the cloud, right? You just consume the service out of the Cohesity AWS. And we are starting now with AWS for this as a service, and we are expanding to the Azure. We have it already in GCP. Now we have it on AWS, and we are adding for Azure. But still, at any point of time, if you want to manage your own Cohesity infrastructure there in the cloud, that is absolutely always available.
في عندنا سؤالين
اتفضل.
لو ممكن نقولهم دلوقتي ولا تخليك لما نخلص؟
على طول اتفضل. لا اتفضل.
طيب في أول سؤال بيقول لك Office 365 backup license is capacity based or user based?
Okay, so the answer for this, the license for Cohesity is always capacity based, back-end capacity based.
Whatever
doesn't matter how many,
right?
whatever the number of the users you have. Yeah.
طيب في سؤال تاني another question. Most of the user case for Cohesity is backup, file shares, object stores as a secondary storage. Can Cohesity have integration with virtual volume host VMDK for virtualization workload?
So technically it can be, okay, but we don't position for that for different reasons, because um, we are focusing on this use case, the backup, the archiving, the test environment, the file and objects. We are not focusing on the primary storage there, even though you can use it. We have customers using the Cohesity as a virtual storage for the hypervisors, let's say VMware or Nutanix Acropolis, right? For specific virtual machines which need archiving storage, for example, but we don't position it for, let's say, running the transactional database and the production applications. So technically, yes, but it depends on the use case.
Okay, we can continue. Thank you.
Now, suppose that you already finished, you did the backup, you did the file and object storage, you're writing into Cohesity, keep writing there. Now you have requirements to provision test environment. Now, suppose that you have large, let's say DB, 5TB, Oracle or SQL, and you want to create a test environment for it. So instead of making a new copy on a new storage, you can use the existing backup data and you make a clone, and we call it zero cost clone, inside Cohesity for that DB and mount the DB directly into the existing database server you have, right? So the DB will be served from the Cohesity storage, but mounted into your compute, which is the Oracle DB or SQL DB or whatever DB server you have there, virtual or physical. Okay. So, but not only that, this is important, yes, but also we're adding the refresh part. So you created the test dev environment today, okay, but you are still keep taking new backup. So tomorrow you took a new backup from the production. The after tomorrow you took another new backup, right? Now your test environment is not updated, right? It is old. Let's say it is two days old. With the Cohesity, you can click on refresh, and then you can ingest the latest backup into the test environment you have there, right? So you can automate this. You can make it manually, or you can automate it, and it will reduce actually the number of data copies, and it will reduce the operation overhead as well. Because instead of tearing down this clone and creating another test environment from the latest backup, you can refresh the existing one, and you get the access to it there with a seamless session failover there. And there is no any limitation on the number of the clones which you can create out of this backup here. And there is no also performance impact. Why? Because it's happening on the metadata layer within the platform only. And by the way, this is not only used for test, but I have seen some customers, they're using it. If you have a large DB and you want to recover, let's say, a table out of that. So instead of recovering the full database and then see that data, you can just mount it, and then you can do the recovery from the mount here directly. Same thing is applicable to the virtual environment, by the way. Okay. We added also the solution for masking. For example, if you are in a finance sector and you want to give copy of the database to third-party development team, so and you want to mask your end users confidential data. So before you make the clone and give them the test environment, you can mask this confidential data out of the DB. Okay. Now, these are the main, let's say, very high level 3 use cases. But now, if you have everything is on place and you are using the Cohesity for all the 3 use cases, imagine yourself you are managing and controlling this from that single user interface. And we added the layer, what we call it Helios, and it's a SaaS model. So regardless of how many number of clusters you have, how many data centers you have, you can manage it from the same single user interface today. Okay? So you'll have that global control for the compute and data where it is exactly. But more importantly, you will control the RPO and the RTO, the SLA, and the configuration across all the clusters and data centers you have where you have Cohesity and you have the backup there, for example. So instead of keeping this operation or this task into the backup admin, and he may configure something on the data center one, but configure another RPO or different frequency and retention in data center two, you can create that from the Helios and apply it into the all data centers where you have Cohesity cluster running there. At the same time, you will have the ability to search across all the data centers. So from day one, we give you the capability of searching across workloads. But now with Helios, you have the search across all the data centers as well. Suppose that you have, let's say, 30 branches and or stores, and you are having on each branch, you have some NAS data there. So the question, how can I search across all the 30 NAS storage and all these branches? So traditionally, unless you are replicating to a central data center, you will not be able to do that search as well. You have to log in on each and every branch and search for that file or that text, for example. Now with the Helios, you can do that across all the global cluster you have. And the Helios also is giving the real-time monitoring and reporting across all the data centers again, right? So you can see how it is, how is the trends, for example, on the capacity. You can do the capacity management and planning out of the Helios. So before adding any backup for any server, it will give you like, if I added this amount of data as a front-end backup, and I apply this backup policy, what is the impact in my storage capacity? So it will give you after what time you need to add extra storage, for example. So it will show the trends and it will show like simulation for the future as well. And it is powered by some machine learning algorithm there, which is monitoring the security aspects of the backups. And it can give you even, it will learn, it will give you like alerts, and it will give you suggestion which backup you can recover in case of you if you have any attacks there, because it is monitoring the backup, it is monitoring the activities out of the backup, and it will tell you what are the latest, cleanest copy of the backup which you can restore from. And we added also, we published the mobile apps we have. So now on the go, you can see what is going on in your Cohesity cluster as a backup, as a recovery. So from anywhere, right? So you can access that through the mobile app, the Helios mobile app. And the marketplace, coming back to the subject of the marketplace here. So what's the marketplace is the same idea of in your mobile phone, you know, you have the app store, you purchase your cell phone, you go to the app store and you find millions of applications by developers published there. And these apps, whenever you download, it will be downloaded into your cell phone, and then it will have the resources access to into your cell phone, right? It asks for permission and so forth. So what we did in Cohesity is we built a marketplace, but before the marketplace, when you get the Cohesity cluster and you create that cluster, we have the built-in Kubernetes framework within the cluster itself, which is allowing us to run Docker containers apps out of the platform there, right? To give you an example, you are taking backup for, let's say, 1,000 virtual machines. Now, instead of doing the vulnerability scan on the production virtual machines, you can do now the vulnerability scan on the backup data. So you take the backup at night, and once the backup finish, we'll start the scanning on the backup data itself. So you will offload that huge task from the production servers down to the backup data. And this backup data, usually they will sit and they are waiting for the retention period to over, and then it will be deleted, right? Or they are waiting for you to come and do some restore out of it. Otherwise, it's going to sit idle there, passive component inside the data center. So we said in Cohesity, no, we will bring that compute to the data, and instead of moving the data around, so you can have the compliance report apps or applications, and you can have the data migration applications used there. You can have some analytics apps there, like the Spotlight, like the Insight apps. And if you go to marketplace.cohesity.com, you will see some apps developed by Cohesity, some other apps developed by third party, and some apps are free, some with the license from third party, and so forth. And this is very unique for Cohesity here, that ability to use the backup data for something else apart from the backup and the recovery. Okay, this is one example, what we call it the CyberScan, which is going to do this vulnerability scanning on the production data after it gets backed up, right? And you get the report what patch is missing on these virtual machines, and this is after you take the backup. Okay, so you do that scan, and not only that, yes, it will give you the report like go and fix this and that on that virtual machines, but also when you come back and you want to do some recovery, it will tell you which snapshot and which backup you can recover from it. So it will learn again another that. So using this report, you will come to know which clean backup that I can go and restore from it, right? So for example, you took the backup today, and then we run the cyber scan after the backup automatically. And then it will tell you these critical patches, let's say, or critical ports are open or missing inside that production service. So you went and you fixed that issue. Next day, we took another new backup. So we'll run that scan again and we'll tell you, okay, this is the clean one, right? Something happens after that, so you can go back to this clean one with the suggestion from the software on the web interface directly there. Another example for the apps which can be downloaded from the marketplace, we call it Cohesity Runbook. And the Runbook is the app responsible for all the DR orchestration, right? So it will help you that to put the plan of if I have any disaster in my primary, and I'm doing already replication from the Cohesity on-prem to the Cohesity cloud or another Cohesity on another data center. So in case of disaster, first restore this virtual machine. Let's say the AD and then DNS or DNS, then AD and so forth like that. And then DBs and then the application like that. Wait between the restore this much time. Change the IP address while restoring. Change the disk format while restoring, like that, right? So you put the disaster recovery plan using the Runbook, and it is like drag and drop, very easy one. Okay, that plan is ready. You can now do DR drill at any point of time, okay, in an isolated environment. And whenever you have, God forbid, then you have that disaster, you can click and we will execute that plan for you automatically, right? So no more you need to figure out what to do first and next, third, while you having that disaster time. So you put the plan, and the Runbook will help you on that plan, and you can extract it, print it for the compliance, whatever it is. Right? Any questions so far?
مهند في سؤال بيقول is the app available for free in the marketplace or is it paid and what is the chargeback model?
So the Runbook, as of now, it is free. As we speaking, it is free.
تمام. And what is the chargeback model?
So it's a free one, right? So you already have the Cohesity. As long as you have Cohesity cluster, you are entitled to use the Runbook app or the Insight app or the Spotlight app. Some other apps
Other,
is paid license. Yeah.
how about other apps? It's already paid, right?
Some of it with the license, some of it with the free. So it depends
Mm,
on the apps there.
mm,
Right. So like Spotlight is free, Insight is free, the Clam AV, that's antivirus, is free. The R clone is free. The Tenable, which is doing the CyberScan, is license based. You can use your existing Tenable license. The Splunk is licensed, like that.
thank you.
Sure. You can even have your apps. Let's say you have in-house development app application. So if you go to marketplace.cohesity.com, on the top right, you will see developer link. So if you click on that link, we will take you into the steps how to, and will help you how to make your existing app as a container. And we can even publish it on the marketplace, whether for your own use or for any Cohesity customer as well. So that option, just explore it if you have any interest on the marketplace. And we keep adding, today you will see, I don't know, 15, 20 apps there, but we are keeping adding there. A lot of apps and tools are coming as well, right? So this is the high level new architecture. The consolidation, this is the main keywords here, the manageability or the simplicity of the management, and also having the apps and the services from the Cohesity marketplace here. Okay. Now, for the scale out architecture, if you come back here, the spanfs, this is the name of the file system of the Cohesity. We call it Cohesity spanfs. And it is engineered by Cohesity. There is no like shortcut there, and some open sources there. Everything is done by Cohesity. Even the SMB protocol, I mean the SMB adapter itself is developed by Cohesity. And when we take the backup, we call it Cohesity Snaptree technology. This is our IP, where we don't use the traditional snapshot. What we use is what we call it the B plus 3 algorithm. So what this is doing actually is will eliminate the need of making chain of snapshots. And eventually this will allow us to make incremental forever. Okay. But also, more importantly, when you do the restore, because of this technology, the restore is faster. Why? Because I don't have to rehydrate the data again, and I don't have to rely on the full backup image, right? So every day I'm taking backup, I'm taking only incremental, and I'm taking a clone from the day before backup, and I'm adding that incremental to the backup, to the clone. So I have a new independent full backup again. But with the cost and the time of the incremental backup without the need of having um, generating full backup again. So even if you go and delete the first backup or delete the second day backup, still you can recover from the day number 10 incremental. So each and every backup is a fully hydrated, and we call it a zero cost clone out of the previous day, right? And you can go for this forever there. And this is the power of having that consolidation as a distributed file system. Otherwise, this cannot be done on the traditional three-tier architecture. Okay. You see the global actionable search. This is where you have the ability to do the search, and not only the result like where is this virtual machine, where is this file, no, but also you can do action out of the result page directly there as a protection, backup, recovery, clone, insert mount, whatever the action is available with the version you are using. Okay. Just to give you an example, to do this part, the indexing and searching part, if you look, I don't want to name, but if you look at some legacy backup solutions, you need to have indexing license, that discovery license, and you need to implement that new physical servers or in the cloud, right? You need to provision that one. It's a SaaS model. So you need a separate setup just to make this out of the box Cohesity feature with the other solutions, right? While you get it here out of the box. Very important, especially for the enterprise customers. The security part, the first thing is, as I said before, reducing that attack surface or the security domain is itself is a value here. And again, it's a security principle, very basic security principle. The larger surface you have, the higher risk you get, because that attack, that thing can come from anywhere, right? But here we are consolidating so that you can focus on securing that one platform here, right? And assessing the security posture, because of the ability of doing the scan on the data, whatever data you have there inside Cohesity. So we are helping that. We make sure that your production server itself is within the level and the compliance of the security you get in place there. Right? But also defending, when we writing that backup, we make it immutable backup. So it will be as a read only, or you can clone and then access it. So at any point of time, you are always having secured backup within the Cohesity. So the concept is the architecture itself should be secure, and then you should be able to defend, and then you should be able to act after the attacks as well, right? Before the acting, you need to make sure you are able to detect there is attack, right? And this is where the Helios come into the picture, and the machine learning and the monitoring of the internal backup is coming into the picture. And then the last step here, the responding. Let's say that attack already happened and you got the ransomware, and then you are asking now for the money. How you are going to respond? How fast you can get back to business? How fast you can recover all the environments you have? Imagine yourself, you have only the traditional tapes and you are doing the recovery from the tapes for 50 TB, right? That's going to take days, right, for the recovery. While here, you can get instant access to all the environment out of the Cohesity directly, right? And eventually at the background, you can move it back to the primary storage again. So we do the reduction of the security attack surface, and we help on the assessment of the environment security measures, and we defend your backup data. We detect in case of anything's happening, and we respond after the thing happens as well, right? This is the 360-degree of the security view in the Cohesity platform. Certificates are there for the worm or the data log, and the encryption, the FIPS one. So whether it is on-prem or I mean at the rest or in-flight encryption, that is there. Segmentation, if you have in a private cloud, you can segregate the data, you can make different storage domains, and you can segregate, protect the data, depends on the compliance of each department or each tenant you have, if you are enabling the multi-tenancy, and so forth. The RPAC, very important thing here is the ability to take the access for the users based on their need only. So the rule-based access control, very granular one, is available here. Next, for the support itself with the home, the call home, let's say, features. So you can enable that one, and you allow our support to help you without, locking you in a Zoom session or a WebEx session for hours. So if you are giving that tunnel, the support tunnel, so they can just access what they need to access and look for exactly as a logs and configuration, and help you resolve any issue happening there. So I'm just pausing here for a second, see if there is any question.
في عندنا كام سؤال يا مهند. في أول سؤال technically how do you protect the backup from ransomware؟
So as I said here, if you can go, I go back here. So you have different steps and different stages of the protection. The first thing is you need to make sure you have less component, like instead of running, Windows proxy servers, Windows media agent server, and then Windows master server, right? So we are going to reduce that because we don't have this terminology at all. This is number one. Second is when you take the backup, the basic thing is to make sure this backup data cannot be encrypted by external party or cannot be accessed by any external party, right? Even as a backup, let's say that malware came. Ransomware is a malware, right? So let's say that malware got the credential of your backup admin team, and then they try to access the backup, okay? Even though as a backup admin, you will be able only to make a clone. When you click on recovery, at the background, we are creating a clone and we are giving you access to the clone, not to the backup, the one you requested, right? So worst case scenario is going to happen on the clone of the data, not the actual data. That is from the protection level itself. Now, we protected the data, but let's say you have the ransomware and they encrypted your production servers. Now you want to recover from the backup. Let's say the backup has not been touched at all. So, and you have now 500 virtual machines, each with 5 TB. You want to recover it. With the traditional backup solution, you will need to recover what? One by one, 4 at a time, 5 at a time, 10 at a time. So see how long it will take you to get back into production. In Cohesity, if all this in one protection jobs, I can click clone and you will see the virtual machines up and running in your VMware environment, even though it is served from the Cohesity at the back end. Right? So immutable backup, there is no backdoor at all. Okay, and it is immutable, locked. No one will be changed that data. Super user, backup admin, whatever it is, no one will be able to change it. At the same time, we are able to respond faster if there is something happens there. I hope that answered the question.
طيب عندنا سؤال تاني. The protection from ransomware is using a restore method and not a protection from ransomware itself. Is it my understanding correct?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get it.
Okay. The protection from ransomware is using a restore method and not a protection from ransomware in itself. Is my understanding correct?
So it is a protection for the backup data. It's a protection against the ransomware for the backup data, not for your production, of course, right? So because I'm not going to run in the production server, so the ransomware can happen on the your production servers, right? I protect that data after I take the backup. So I have to take the backup and then I make sure that this backup data is not going to be affected by the ransomware. That's why I'm protecting you against the ransomware on the recovery level, on the backup level. Okay. After that, I give you the ability to recover from this backup faster. So this is the two things here. But when the ransomware attack happens, if it happens only on the production and I'm protecting the backup data and it is not able to access the backup data, then it is not a complete attack there, right? I protect you against that ransomware accessing the backup, because this is what is all about the ransomware. They get the access in production and then they try, before they ask you for the money, they go to the backup server and then encrypt that backup data, and then they will ask you for the money. Otherwise, you could have come back to backup at any point of time and recover, right? So we will stop them before they reaching the backup data. This is where we work.
طيب عندنا سؤال تاني. Can I take backup of a physical server and recover it as a VM on Cohesity?
Yes, so we do that today with our alliance. We call it Christie. So it's coming with the bundle with the Cohesity license. So you can do from physical, take the BMR with the Cohesity as a physical and then restore it as a virtual, or you can take it, let's say, with the virtual Hyper-V and you recover it as a VMware. So that is possible. Yeah.
Another question, RBAC, does it have integration with this directory listing like Active Directory single sign-on for authentication?
Okay. Absolutely. You can integrate with the LDAP directories, the ID directories. You can integrate with single sign-on services. But to get the authorization itself, you can integrate with any directory service you have. And you can have even multiple, more than one Active Directory integration. So for example, if you, let's say you have two domains and there is no trust relationship between them, you can add both of them. If there is trust relationship, you add one, and then we can resolve and discover the next one or the second one.
Okay, last question. If I have a VM with iSCSI LAN mapped to it, can Cohesity backup this LAN?
So if you are giving like physical LAN or physical RDMs on the virtual machine, in that case, we will install the agent on the virtual machine. And then that virtual machine will be able to take it as if it is physical server with the LAN attached, right? But without the agent, because of the architecture of the RDMs or the LANs directly to the VM, that means the hypervisor like the VMware, they are not controlling that one. So no one will be able to take it without agent. So you have to take it from the OS level, not from the hypervisor level.
Okay, another question. Does Cohesity support multi-tenancy, like I can give each customer a dedicated portal to manage the backup?
Absolutely. You can have the multi-tenancy without extra license out of the box, and you apply that multi-tenancy self-service portal and you give them access either for backup only or for backup and NAS, backup and object. You give them access for just reporting or monitoring or to configure their virtual machines and physical backup, or you give them access for restore only without configuring backup, whatever access you like. And you can make, as I said, for each and every tenant, they can bring their own Active Directory, so they can authenticate against their own AD for each tenant. Any other question?
Till now, no another questions. So we can continue, please.
Okay. So moving forward here.
Another
Yeah.
question, please.
Hmm?
No, till now, no, sorry. It's just thank us about answering the physical question. So you can
Okay, no
continue,
problem.
please. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the security topics here is the air gapping, and what we give here is multiple options: either the physical traditional air gapping into tapes and then moving that tapes offline, of course, or doing in a new way that you can have another Cohesity cluster and you do the virtual air gapping, but it is the same result of the physical air gapping without the need of the manual job and without the need of the making the data offline and not usable, right? So we make that sure that the replication happens with the data lock. What that means is I make sure the same result of the physical air gapping is there. Data is not accessible outside, but also it is easy to be recovered from it faster and easier and simpler, right? If I'm doing the replication to another Cohesity cluster. But still the option of the tapes is available there, of course, right? Third option is to do the archiving to another storage that can be a NAS storage, or it can be S3 buckets in the cloud. So you can do that in the cloud, and we maintain also the data log state of the data into the third-party storage, which I'm archiving. This specific part of the physical air gapping, if you want to compare this with some of the solutions in the market, usually they need extra licensing, or they call it cybersecurity or whatever. And then you need the professional service to deploy it. You need extra user interface, and you need extra servers in order to deploy this physical air gapping mechanism. While here, this is something we just have it there in Cohesity. We introduce also the CDP, Continuous Data Protection, for the VMware part. So now you can have that near zero RPO and continuous protection for the critical, or the mission critical, the business critical virtual machines, right? And when you have this and you combine it with the Runbook app we have, then you get that automated disaster recovery. And now you can get also near zero RTO. So you get the near zero RPO with the CDB. And if I'm doing the replication with the Cohesity, and I'm doing the orchestration with the playbook, the Runbook, so you get that full end-to-end solution for DR with near zero RPO, near zero RTO, and automated planning as well. Right? And this is like architecture for the automated DR failover. Let's say, suppose that you have the production and then you have a DR, both are VMware as of today. Now, what we do is you get the Cohesity. Now you are doing CDP, continuous data protection. And what we will do, you have two types. You have mission critical SLA and you have business critical SLA. Mission critical SLA means that you really need that zero or near zero RTO. So what we do is we will create like standby virtual machines on the disaster recovery site, right? Sorry, and we do the replication into it. So at any point of time, you can get the access from the DR directly there. While the business critical SLA is, I do the CDB, I do the replication to another Cohesity cluster, and from there you can recover into the DR. Right? So you have the two options here. Whether you want to make another Cohesity cluster or no depends on what is the criticality of the applications that you are protecting here. For the cloud part, the services we give is, as I said, it's a journey, right? So you can start by having only the long retention backups going into the cloud as an archiving, right? And that is what we call it cloud archive. So you take the backup on-prem on the Cohesity, and then you push it after some time to the cloud, and you keep it there locked in the cloud for archiving purposes. Okay. You can combine this with the cloud spin, for example. So you take the archiving there, but also I add the cloud spin, which is making the conversion from the on-prem format to the cloud format. So you can use this data as an archive at the same time, or at any point of time, you can use it as a DR as well. So you can recover and power on, spin up those data into the cloud format there, right? So when you push the data into the cloud archive, you can retrieve it from any other Cohesity cluster, not necessarily the same source or the same first one. You can do also cloud tiering. That means you have Cohesity, let's say 100 TB on-prem, and you want to expand this storage, but with the cloud storage. So you can expand it, your tier down to the cloud storage, and we tier it back if it is become hot again. So we push the cold data and we get the hot data back again, right? Or you can do the native cloud data protection. So you can use either, you don't want to pay for the traffic charge from the cloud to the on-prem for the backup. So you can do the backup and save the data there in the backup in the cloud. And by the way, this is not applicable to Office 365 because Azure, they are not, or Microsoft, they are not charging for the ingress data, from the Office 365 to on-prem. They don't have any problem on that, right? So you can do the Office 365 backup from the cloud to the on-prem easily, right? So this is one option. The other option is the RDS. You know, if you have any RDS database running in the AWS, so you can do the protection there. Either keep the data there and move, let's say, a copy of it or a backup or archiving to the on-prem, or vice. Keep it there. So the options are there. Replication to and from the cloud. If you are provisioning Cohesity platform in the cloud, so you can have that full Cohesity experience in the cloud. Then you can do the replication to on-prem or vice versa. Disaster recovery in the cloud, we talked about. This is the ability to have this production from the on-prem be as a protected or as a DR in the cloud, right? With the automation and the orchestration and the ability to test it at any point of time. Any question here?
عندنا سؤال يا مهند
Hmm.
but is there any limitation on the OS?
Limitation in the OS, I didn't get. The OS, which OS?
Maybe the supported OS for Cohesity, all OS are supported, related Windows, Linux, for example, as I
Yeah, there
understood
is no
the
limit
question.
here. I mean, okay, for the cloud spin, I believe the question for cloud spin, there is no limit here. So it depends if I'm cloud spinning from VMware or from Hyper-V, as long as the operating system is supported by them to run as a guest virtual machine, it is going to be supported by Cohesity.
Okay, and on-prem operating system all supported, right? Windows, Linux.
Linux, AIX, whatever X is there, and HVUX, Solaris, Oracle
Okay,
Linux, and stuff like that.
another question: does Cohesity support data tiering from other NAS arrays? Does it have integration for e.g. if I have to tier data from Isilon to Cohesity?
Absolutely. So I will show that. You know, why don't I show you? Because actually this is our last. You
Slide?
see my screen here? Yeah, that's last slide. So we can jump
Yeah,
into the
like
content.
geographic and summary dashboard.
Right. So first, I will show about the NAS migration part or the tiering. Okay, we call it data tiering. This is the one, right? So I can configure the Cohesity to tear down data from this source, whatever NAS is there, or I can register another source that can be mount point, NFS, SMB, regardless from where it is coming, NetApp or whatever, right? So once I do the registration, then I have the options. This one here, I'm adding this, for example. And then, so this is the conditions will be. I will migrate. It's not a migrate. It can be used as a migration or it can be as a tiering. So it depends on if I enable this one, do not create symbolic links after migration. So that means I'm migrating, right? Right? If I did not enable it, that means I'm going to create that symbolic uh, shortcut within the primary NAS. So it will be just as a tiering. So still people will click on that double click on that shortcut within the NAS, and it will be shared from Cohesity. Now, what are the conditions I'm moving the data is based on the access time, okay, or based on the capacity there, okay, here greater than or alt, right? And I would run this, I can run it every day or weekly or monthly like that at specific point of time, okay? So these are the options. It can be used as well for complete migration. I'm deleting the data from that NAS storage after if someone is deleted that symbolic link, so the data خلاص is within Cohesity. But it can be just used for tiering. That's why we call it data tiering. Now, this data will be moved to Cohesity if the users that they kept asking for it, they double click on it every day, there is a more request for it, then it will become hot. We will bring it back to that NAS storage again. Okay, and you have advanced options here for the QoS, how fast or what are the profile for this. You want to write first on the SSD and then move to the HD, and so forth. Encryption, the inclusion. Inclusion means exclusion for the files and the format, or I want to run this tiering, but there is a specific share which I want to skip it, right? I don't want to check that share, right? So we can exclude that or include a specific share from here. Indexing, so this will allow me to do the searching on this data after I move it here. Okay, from here top, I can search the files and folders out of it. Yeah. Now, since we are here on the user interface, these are the two main workplaces here. The data protection, this is for the backup use cases. And this is the file services, all the work for the file and object services. So if you don't have the license for data protection, you will see both of them, but you will be entitled to use this one only. Now you scale up and you added the license of data protection. Now you will be able to see, you will be able to use this data protection there. So there will not be any change on the configuration itself here. Now, if I come to data protection and I come to sources, this is where you register what kind of workload you want to take backup for. Hypervisor, is it a virtual? So you select what type of hypervisor is there and how it is managed. Or it can be a cloud resource, okay? Or you can select as a physical server if you have the agent installed there, or Office 365, Scale, Oracle, or it can be an NAS storage. So I'm taking backup for NetApp, I'm taking backup for Isilon, Mount, and just a mount point from Windows, and so forth. Right? Now, once you register that source, the second step is to create the policy for the backup. Now, this policy, you have some predefined backup policies, but you can have your own here. Okay. And you configure first thing, or the basic is the frequency for the backup. I'm taking, let's say, backup here every 1 hour, and I'm keeping it for, I don't know, 10 days. Okay. And then you have the options here. So what the options, as I said, by default, it is incremental forever, but you can add a periodic full if you want. So I can make another full after 1 week, every Friday, or I make that full every month on the first day, on the first weekend, let's say. So I will make another full. So every day, every hour, I'm taking backup incremental. I keep it for 10 days, and I'm taking full every month. Right? Now, if this is a database, you can configure the logs separately. So I'm taking for the DB, let's say every day, but for the logs, I'm taking every 10 minutes, for example, right? This is the PMR for the physical, and you can set also blackout time for all the backup. So on this particular time of the day, I'm not allowing any backup to run. So we can black out this window. Also, you can do the replication from the same policy. This is the simplicity we're talking about. Everything is configured from within the same place. So I can replicate to another Cohesity cluster or another target, okay? And I can make the replication happening on a different time. So I'm taking backup daily. I keep it 10 days. I'm doing the replication, let's say after the backup, but I will keep it on the other side. I will keep it for 14 months. So here, first data center, I'm keeping 10 days. Second data center, I'm keeping 14 days, just for example. Right? The same thing for the archiving, and I can configure the archive here, whether it is tapes or NAS storage or different, or let's say in Azure. So I select storage and I'm archiving to this cloud storage, or I can archive to existing NAS storage or S3 or the tapes from here. And you have all the options to make the source site deduplication to save on the one link consumptions and the timing, and the encryption while sending as well, and make it also bandwidth, so I can configure what is the maximum bandwidth I can use as a archiving traffic for a specific period of time or specific time date here. So on Monday, I want to use only maximum 8 MB, for example, between this at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. like that, right? A lot of options there. This is the cloud spin. This is where you take from the Cohesity, or let's say the backup you taken from here, okay, and I'm configure it as a convert to the cloud spin. So I'm taking the backup for these virtual machines, which I will apply to the virtual machine later, but I'm converting it to the Azure or AWS format, and I'm doing this every day or after every run, right? So that means I'm taking the backup, I'm archiving it to the cloud, I'm sending a copy to the cloud, and I'm converting it to the cloud format so I can recover in the cloud there directly. Okay. Now, once you create that policy, so you apply the policy on whatever you need here, for example, on a virtual server. So I registered that vCenter already, right? So I will be able to see all the objects which has been managed, or it is managed after with this vCenter. So I select the object. This is, let's say, the vCenter. So I can apply this policy to all the objects managed by that vCenter, or I can apply the policy on a specific folder out of this vCenter, or apply it based on the tags of the virtual machines. Or I simply search the virtual machine name and select that virtual machine. So a number of virtual machines here, and I select whatever I want to take backup for. Okay. Same thing here for the AD. We also support the Active Directory granular level recovery for it as an object, or even the attributes inside the Active Directory object. For the recovery, if you want to recover file and folder, or the complete virtual machine, or a virtual disk, or the complete physical server, or the Office 365, let's say you have the emails, so you can search, you can recover that complete mailbox, or just search for an email, okay, based on the search criteria you want here, even additional filters there, okay. So you can recover it like this. Yeah, storage volumes. This is for the Oracle. By the way, for the Oracle, we use the Oracle RMAN, seamless integration. So you don't have to create your own scripting for RMAN. So it will be created automatically once we install the agent on that Oracle server. Yeah. This is the marketplace. I mean, the marketplace, if I click on all apps, it will take me to the marketplace.com. These are the apps. If I click on get the app, it will take me to the Helios. I will log in, and then it will be installed, and I will see it here in my apps. Right? If there is any app running, download it from here, installed, you will see it here. Okay. So you have the CyberScan, the network tools. This is like testing for pings and telnet and some other functions out of the user interface here. This is for reporting. So this is the idea of the marketplace here. And the built-in reports are there. We have one app specifically for the report, which is doing very granular report, customizable. Okay, but also you have some built-in reports here. You can just generate it and email it or schedule email sending for it. Do we have any question on the chat?
No,
If
no,
you
till
don't
now
like this,
clear.
you can turn it up.
Guys, do you have any questions؟ لو في حد عنده سؤال تاني يا جماعة. انت كده مهند السلايدز خلصت صح؟ تمام كده؟
Yeah, and I've covered what I wanted to cover on this session actually.
تمام.
So feel free, please, to reach out if you have any question, any concern, do you need any information? Just reach out to any of us here.
في سؤال أخير. So the minimum schedule is
Yeah.
10 minutes for a backup frequency?
Yes, that's correct. But for the VMware, the CDB is there, not 10 minutes. It's continuous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. شكرا يا جماعة. مع السلامة.
All right.